When most of us hear the word sonnet, the name Shakespeare likely comes to mind. English classes the world over have read from the bard's 154 sonnets, so you've undoubtedly encountered one at some time. But Shakespeare was not the only writer of sonnets, considering the English had adapted the poetic form from earlier Italian or Petrarchan sonnets. In fact, Shakespeare was not even the only author of English sonnets during his lifetime. Edmund Spenser, a contemporary of Shakespeare, innovated the form even further, and the resulting poetry has been called the Spencerian sonnet ever since. For centuries, sonnets of the Petrarchan and Shakespearean varieties have been associated with cliches of love poetry. They're full of flowery descriptions of the poet's beloved and bold declarations of their undying fidelity. Quite frequently, however, these poems express a passionate devotion to a woman whom the author was not actually interested in at all. Spenser, on the other hand, meant every amorous word he penned. We know this because he wrote his collection of 89 sonnets, or Amoretti, in 1594 to celebrate his coming marriage to his beloved Elizabeth Boyle. Building on the affectionate framework that already existed, Spenser immortalized his true love by giving the sonnet a fresh purpose and form. Like other sonnets, Spenser's contain 14 lines of iambic pentameter, meaning there are 5 iambic feet, or iambs, per line. However, his rhyme scheme and the manner in which he decided to divide these lines distinguish his form from the others. The scheme Spenser chose was adapted from the rhyme model he used in his famous epic poem, The Faerie Queene, and follows the pattern A, B, A, B, B, C, B, C, C, D, C, D, E, E. Here we have the sonnet divided into 3 quatrains or segments of 4 lines, followed by a rhyming couplet. Spenser's form is also commonly referred to as a linking sonnet because the B and C rhyme elements weave the quatrains together. Let's take a quick look at an example of a Spencerian sonnet so we can see this formatting in action. This is sonnet number 41 from Amoretti. The first line is broken into the 4 iambs, and the second syllable of each is stressed. Is it her nature, or is it her will, to be so cruel to an humbled foe? If nature, then she may it mend with skill. If will, then she at will may will forego. But if her nature and her will be so, that she will plague the man that loves her most, and take delight t'increase a wretch's woe, then all her nature's goodly gifts are lost, and that same glorious beauty's idle boast is but a bait such wretches to beguile, as being long in her love's tempest tossed, she means at last to make her piteous spoil. Of fairest fair let never it be named, so that fair beauty was so foully shamed. In this example, you can see how Spenser links the idea of each quatrain into a continuous thought, which he reflects in the rhyme scheme. We also find that the final couplet, once again distinguished by elements of rhyme, characteristically presents a different idea from the rest of the sonnet or comments on it in some way. Now that we've seen the framework of a Spencerian sonnet, you'll be able to take in the whole picture in the following examples. Many of the sonnets Edmund wrote for Elizabeth correspond to certain dates in the church calendar. In sonnet number 68, Spenser uses the occasion of Easter to discuss God's love, while tying it to the love he and his future wife share in the final lines. Most glorious Lord of life, that on this day didst make thy triumph over death and sin, and having harrowed hell didst bring away captivity, thence captive us to win. This joyous day, dear Lord, with joy begin, and grant that we for whom thou didst die, being with thy dear blood clean washed from sin, may live forever in felicity, and that thy love we weighing worthily, may likewise love thee for the same again. And for thy sake that all like dear didst buy, with love may one another entertain. So let us love like as we ought. Love is the lesson which the Lord us taught. Far from the religious sentiments of earlier sonnets, later pieces in the Amoretti seem to indicate Spenser's growing excitement as the nuptials drew nearer. For instance, sonnet number 76 illustrates his not-so-virtuous fixation with his beloved's breasts, as well as his impatience to enjoy them fully. Fair bosom fraught with virtue's richest treasure, the nest of love, the lodging of delight, the bower of bliss, the paradise of pleasure, the sacred harbor of that heavenly sprite. How was I ravished with your lovely sight, and my frail thoughts too rashly led astray, whiles diving deep through amorous insight, on the sweet spoil of beauty they did prey, and twixt her paps like early fruit in May, whose harvest seemed to hasten now apace, thy loosely did their wanton wings display, and there to rest themselves did boldly place. Sweet thoughts, I envy your so happy rest, which oft I wished, yet never was so blessed. Unlike Petrarchan or Shakespearean sonnets, those written by Edmund Spenser, called Spencerian sonnets, reflected his real-life passion. His Amoretti, a collection of 89 sonnets, was written in 1594 in anticipation of his marriage to Elizabeth Boyle that year. Spenser also varied his sonnets from the others by using his own rhyme scheme. The way in which the rhyming elements weave the three quatrains, or four-line segments, together have given Spenser's poems the alternate name linking sonnets. Like other sonnets, though, Spencerians still consist of 14 lines of iambic pentameter. Many Spencerian sonnets coincide with specific dates in the church calendar and use religious imagery to express his affections. However, other later examples were rather erotic in nature.